their topic. So our first speaker will be Karen, and her topic will be around how to determine what career change is right for you and when is the correct time or signals to start making that change. Please welcome Karen.
I don't like standing behind lecterns. To start with, I'm too short. Career change. I sat down thinking about how many times I have changed careers in the 36 years that I have been working. It's really interesting that I think about that today because this morning I actually had breakfast with a friend of mine that I haven't seen for 35 years. We were teenagers together. We used to, and this is going to sound really daggy, we used to go roller skating together. And he is now a consultant in the engineering field, and he happens to be in Brisbane today. And it got me thinking, having breakfast with him around all those career changes I've been through. And what were those signals? What were those things that told me it's time to move on for something else? Because here's the one thing I can say to you that I have learnt the hard way in those 36 years, is you need to start changing before you need to, because it sneaks up on you. You're going along, you're happily with your career, happy with everything in your life, and then all of a sudden, maybe something completely beyond your control, a change in an industry, government legislation, downturn in the economy, change in your personal circumstances, and you can find yourself needing to change careers. So it's really about changing before you need to. But what are those signals? What are the signs that you need to change? Now, I've been talking to some people around the room before we started to get a bit of an idea of who's who. Who here is yet to start their career? Who's still studying at uni? Okay, we've got quite a few of you here. It's great to see some of our leaders of the future out there. Who's already been through some career change? Yeah. And who's actually in the process of doing it right now? Yeah, or having it forced upon them, right? So we're in the right room. So when I started thinking about the signals, there's actually a great book that I read by a woman called Stephanie Dowick. And she actually uses a term called noticing. And I think this is a really important one. When you start to notice, it doesn't mean you have to take any action, but that idea of you start to notice things should be a signal to you to start reflecting on, is this a sign I should do something? So when I thought about what are some of the things I noticed when it came to career change, and here's a few key words that came to mind for me. Let's see if you can relate to any of them. Boredom. Disappointment. Anger. Frustration. Just the desire for something new, or this is a really interesting one, envy. You look at someone else and go, gee, I wish I had Chris's job. Gee, that looks interesting. And jobs look great from the outside, don't they? And then you start talking to Chris, and I have no idea what he does. We haven't actually met before. And you start talking to him, and then you go, oh, well, that's not what it sounded like. I spoke to a couple of people earlier and said that when I was 16, I wanted to be an actor or a flight attendant. You know what? I didn't really want to be an actor or a flight attendant. Do you know what I figured out? It took me a while. Figure out, do you know what I wanted to do? Travel and perform. So it's really interesting that when you look back on what those childhood dreams of yours might have been, they actually can be the essence of what your real career should be. What we've got to do is look past what are those instructions people give us. Who's got a parent, a teacher, some other adult in their life who, when they were younger, or those of you who are young now, is saying, oh, you really should do X because that's a good, and I hate this word, safe career. Yeah? Who's had this instruction? Yeah? It's like a girl I went to high school with. I saw her at my high school reunion a few years back, and she said, yeah, I remember the careers guidance counsellor at school telling me I should be a hairdresser because I have nice hair. It's like, who's giving this career advice? So it's noticing, when you're experiencing some of those emotions, and then what it is about is once you've noticed, is figuring out, well, what do I really want to change? And when I look back at the career changes I've had, because I've started out, I left, my goal when I was at school, apart from the actor and flight attendant thing, my goal when I was at school was really, really clear. My goal was to not be at school. So I left in year 11, got a job in a bank because that was where my father worked, so they'd let me do that. So I did sort of general admin work, fell into secretarial work because I apparently like to boss people around, and that's what my manager wanted. And then someone said to me, Karen, you're really good at talking. You should go into HR. Like, that's a reason to be in HR. But as it turned out, it was the right one. But when I look at all these things along the way of how I then went from HR to getting a degree in adult education, starting my own business, what I figured out is that, did I want to change things like the role that I was in, the industry that I was in? Did I want to change the kind of lifestyle that I had? And I'm very much, this business that I'm in now is about lifestyle. Yes, it's about earning money, it's about helping people, but I'm realistic that I like the lifestyle that I have. So when you come to saying, I want to change careers, I want you to really think about, why do you want to change? What is actually feeding that? Do you want a different lifestyle? Is it that you want a different role? Do you want a different industry? Or the other one that I tried, of course, because I'm from Sydney. I lived in Darwin for 3 years. Ladies, I had bad hair every day for 3 years. Not good. And then I'm now here in Brisbane. Location is another factor. So you need to put all those things in the mix when you start to say, well, what type of career change do you want? Because if you don't do it for the right reasons, you are going to find yourself in that next role. You'll enjoy it for a while. It'll go okay for a while. And then you'll find yourself wandering again. Anyone knows someone who's done this, where they just keep changing careers and changing careers? You know why? They haven't really figured out their why. You know, I have a model that I use with people. I talk about having purpose, having focus, and having the right locus of control. What's your purpose? What's your why? And I figured mine out a while ago. Curiosity. I'm a curious person. Who was I talking to before that I said I'm a professional sticky beak? You know, I love asking questions. I mean, I'm curious about people. Curious to know where they've come from, why they make decisions that they do. But there are other purposes you could have. I've actually got a list of a few I've come up with, and they all start with the letter C because that's just easier for me to remember. It could be about collaboration. It could be about community. It could be about connection. You notice none of these things are about making money or being famous or, you know, I know there's a few people, someone I've met today who, the performing arts areas. You know, people who love, I think we've got a couple of musicians down the front here, just to introduce themselves. People who love their music become famous as a byproduct of that, not that being their first goal. Has anyone met anybody who says, oh, my goal is I want to be famous? Like Kardashian famous? You know, it's not about being famous. It's about doing something you love, in your case, the pursuit of music, and a byproduct is you become famous, and yes, you can then use that fame for good or evil. But people who set out to be famous have the wrong idea. Right? If you want to connect with an audience, that's a reason to do music. If you're curious about what that instrument can do, that's a reason to do music. So I want you to delve a little deeper than I want to earn more money, I want to, you know, I just want to get up in my career. What I've learned is that if you understand why you do things, the why behind it, you're going to make much better choices about changing your career. And if you can, for those of you, the younger ones in the room, the quicker you can figure out, what is that core thing that you're about? Mine is curiosity. It explains why when I was a child, you know, I was always told I asked too many questions. I've now used that to my advantage in helping my clients by asking the questions nobody else will ask. I'm the outsider. I can come in and go, why do you do that, Wendy? Because it looks dumb to me. And if you can't explain it, then I'll go, well, why are we doing it? In the context of helping them to develop better team leaders. So I want you to think about that as you hear from our other speakers today. And at this point, I have no idea if I've used up my 10 minutes. Have I? I've got 1.5 minutes to go. I love it. I love it. So here's what I've learned about career change. One final thing, and this is my other passion in life, is ballroom dancing. Anybody here like dancing? Any type of dancing, right? If you want to learn ballroom dancing, I do it in the Valley. A couple of nights a week, come and see me in the break. But my point is that one of the things I love about dancing, and I use it as a metaphor in one of my presentations, is this. When it comes to learning how to dance, sometimes you've got to step forward, sometimes you've got to step sideways, and sometimes you actually have to step backwards to make it work. The same is true in your career. So consider in your career change those sideways moves as well as those backwards moves It is not all going forward, because if you just dance going forward, you look like a bad scene in a tango, you know, when they all go in the one direction. It's about moving in different directions and seeing what you learn. So I hope I've given you some things to think about. I'm going to be coming back later and doing a workshop with you where we're going to get a whole lot more practical around how do you then